6:42 on this Sunday morning. You're watching and listening to Breakfast with Martin and Ellie.
And let's take a look at today's front pages for you now. And on the front of the Sunday Telegraph this morning, the PM is planning a 2p in the pound tax giveaway before the next election.
And Labour are launching a class war on Middle Britain, says the Mail on Sunday. The better off's access to GPs, libraries and even bin collections could be cut off.
The Sunday People say the Sunaks have no class after it was revealed they'd given a US college £2.5 million whilst British schools crumble.
Okay, it's time to go through the papers inside now. And joining us this morning is political strategist and former advisor to Tony Blair, John McTernan, and journalist and author and friend of GB News, Ella Whelan. Good morning to both of you. Shall we kick off with that People front page? Sunak gave £2.5 million to a US college. They're having a pop because he's not giving stuff to British schools. Tell us about this story.
Yeah, complete with the kind of, the 1,000 or however much it was pound loafer wearing and all the rest of the antics that Rishi Sunak gets up with. I just don't understand why the guy keeps doing this. So 3 years into being a British MP for Richmond and North Yorkshire, he and his wife gave $3 million to US college Claremont McKenna in California, which is exceedingly wealthy college. I'd hazard a guess at saying it probably didn't need the £3 million from somebody who was going to later become a British Prime Minister. And for their very generous gift, they have been granted plaques. So they're one of the labs, the Murty Sunak Quantitative and Computing Lab. It's got the names of the Prime Minister's wife on it.
It's worth bearing in mind that that's the college she attended.
Yes.
So it's not just like a random...
No.
It's almost like a thank you. So is it in that sense?
But it's a different life, isn't it? That's the thing. It's a different life from the life normal British people are, the people watching this show this morning. Having that kind of money, Rishi Sunak and his wife are the richest couple ever to live in number 10. Sometimes, depending on the valuation of their what they own, they're richer than the king. And I think it means you're probably out of touch. You probably are different. Yes, giving $2 million to this college is generous, but it's a small amount of money for those people. But for most people, most viewers, that's more than they'll earn in a lifetime.
I think it's not. It's the wealthy stuff is. I think it leads to. We all remember the fact that he couldn't pay with contactless. He keeps making a fool out of himself. But I think the more important thing is that remember when it was revealed that he had a green card, that he is. I think in particular Sunak and his wife are an example of the kind of, I don't know what phrase you'd use, global elite, or sort of people who want to be known as having a legacy in different countries. And if you are a British Prime Minister, all your stakes are meant to be in the country that you are in charge of. And this, the fact that he did this while he was an MP, or, him and his wife did this while he was an MP, I think would make some people question his priorities. And obviously the Sunday People goes into a great amount of detail the fact that a school in his constituency can't afford enough computers for each child to work at the same time, and they're trying to have a fundraiser, and when they asked him to come he said no, I can't. So it just does not look good for the guy.
The optics aren't good, are they? Especially if you look at universities in this country. They are in dire straits. I mean, there is a funding crisis. We're talking about it a lot at the moment with the international student issue. I mean, they essentially subsidise British students going to university, and then you've got the Prime Minister handing £2.5 million for US universities. Doesn't look.
It's a different way of living, isn't it? It doesn't look or smell good.
I sometimes wonder if being wealthy in Britain is seen as an attack point, whereas, for example, if you're wealthy in another country, it's seen as a sign of success. That's just
What do you think of that then, Martin?
I think that if you went to a university, as she did, and she's very grateful for the start it gave her in life, it's their decision to do what they want with their money. And to protract it back to a British school in his constituency, I think is a classic and obvious political attack line.
But I think if you become a politician and you are wealthy and your household is wealthy, then you have to understand that will be a political... I mean, it's a political attack line because Rishi Sunak's chosen to be in politics. Had he stayed in business, nobody would care. And that's the issue, that he seems to want to have the standards of being a businessman applied to a man who is the Prime Minister. And it's where you get double standards that people go...
Tony Blair's earning millions and millions and millions.
He's not Prime Minister now.
Yeah, but...
He's not Prime Minister.
Nobody attacks him for that. The point is, it's like...
Well, no, actually, people did attack him for ages about that.
Why is success not allowed rather than an attack? That's all I'm I'm saying. Anyway, there's another story you're doing now.
Exactly.
That's the front page of the Telegraph.
Yeah.
Tax cut coming in. This is good news, surely, for taxpayers.
It's ridiculous. This is the man who's imposed on us the biggest tax burden since the 50s, maybe even since the 40s. And the plan is to try and make us forget cost of living, to try and make us forget the burden of the creep of the income tax brackets by some flashy promise of a tax cut after the election. This won't be a tax cut before the election. This will be a tax cut announced in a budget, which will come into, and it's on dodgy money. They don't have enough money to give schools computers, and yet there's an idea that we can have a tax giveaway to try to bribe their way back to some electoral recovery. It's a joke. It absolutely is a joke.
Every political party dangles tax carrots to get votes. Jeremy Corbyn threatened to wipe out tuition fees. Every political party in the history of time offers tax cuts before elections.
This government have the books. They know what the books are. So
No, they do. I think that an announcement like this is pretty obvious. The motivation behind it at a time when the Conservatives, probably you would speculate, Sunak and Johnson are going at each other's throats, and it does not look edifying for the voting public who are thinking this country is just so far, this government is so far up its own backside, who doesn't know what's going on. But the more the broader question for what it means for the economy is very depressing because the Labour Party is guilty of this as well, but in particular this government thinks the only way to solve the economic hardship we have at the moment and the difficulties is by tinkering around with tax. And we know that in, trying to, I've said it before on this programme, trying to deal with inflation at the moment, the way in which they're dealing it is like, it's like consulting tea leaves. There's nothing substantial to it. And the result is, you guys talking about having less in products and things like that, which is an annoying but small thing, right up to, basically every time someone opens their energy bill every month, you've no idea what it's going to be, whether it's going to skyrocket or whatever.
On shrinkflation, have you two noticed, just coming off the papers for a second, although this is a story in the day.
Oh, everywhere. Every bag of crisps, my M&Ms. How many M&Ms do you get now? It's a smaller packet and there's fewer of them.
Yeah, chocolate I've definitely noticed. What about you, Ella?
Yeah, the bag of crisps I've noticed, but I'm on high alert because I've got very annoyed by the whole less sugar and everything. So that's a whole different government scheme, yes.
Yeah, the taste is changing too, isn't it?
Yeah, that's true, very, very true. Okay, Ella, let's have a look in the Sunday Times, the front page, Ukraine's new weapons plea to hit back at Putin.
Yes, so, I mean, the news on this is pretty clear that Ukraine is now saying that they're ready for the counter-offensive. It's been confusing for some time. Some people say that is a considered plot to try considered move to try and confuse Russia, but the deputy head of Zelensky's office and his chief foreign affairs advisor is quoted across the papers this morning as saying that we are ready, that this spring offensive is now going to be a summer offensive. They've been praised by US officials and other papers, but in the Times he's really actually having a pop at the European Union and saying that they need to do more in relation to sanctions, that there still is this tension with the fact that Russia is able to make a lot of income on the basis of its energy deals, and he says in the Times it's high time again for the EU and the rest of the world to think if they're doing enough with sanctions. But interesting that he really goes to town on praising Britain. Britain is now one of the leading countries in showing real incentive and courage and how to bring victory to my country.
John, I'd like to bring you in at this point because one of the benefits of Brexit was the ability to be nimble. And is this not a case of the European Union got to sit 27 member states down? It takes so long to get their act together, whereas we are the second biggest donor after the USA. So Britain has more than pulled its weight, and the European Union, meanwhile, are just dragging their heels.
Look, it's a benefit of Britain being one of the biggest military powers in the world outside the US. I think that's a great thing. I don't think it's particularly a Brexit thing, but...
So as far as the notion of continuing to donate, one of the things on the agenda in America this week, of course, Rishi in Washington, is going to be, buttressing, underlining more funds to Ukraine. Is that a good thing, or do you think the electorate have good reason to think, well, this is like a limitless amount of money? What about domestically?
Sure. To be honest, I think there's huge support for Ukraine in the UK. We've seen that with the welcoming of refugees and their settlement in lots of communities. So I think actually British people are willing to go over the long haul for Ukraine, because this isn't simply about Ukraine. It's actually, to be honest, it's about the future of Europe and whether we respond to aggression.
Okay, John, front page, I'd like to thrust your way. Now, the Mail on Sunday, Labour accused of declaring class war on Middle Britain.
If only it was true.
Starmer is after our wheelie bins.
If only this was true. It's not a true story. I would love a class war on behalf of the working class.
Would you?
It's about time. It's about time the working class voice was heard stronger, don't you think? And the Labour Party, the party of the working class, should be representing them. The people who felt left behind. This is it's a modest suggestion. It's a power put into legislation by Gordon Brown that you should look at class-based discrimination in allocating resources, not simply look at sex, not simply look at race, look at class as well. That would be a good thing, but I reckon this isn't going to happen. We'll get the same thing, which is that the middle classes always win from local government. LTNs always in middle class areas. The middle classes play local councils like a piano.
Is the answer, though, to take services away from the middle class, or just improve the services for the working class, so to speak? And by the way,
we're going to end the cuts. You know that. Labour's going to end the cuts in local.
As I recall, John, Sir Keir Starmer wasn't too keen on listening to the working classes when they voted for Brexit. I digress. Ellie, Ella, what about this? I mean, is there anything in this?
Yeah, well, the thing about, John mentions LTNs and stuff, the problem with, I think it's a stretch at the moment, though, as much as I share his desire for a centering of working class politics. I think it's a stretch at this point to think that the Labour Party has much potential. I think Keir Starmer has been quite naked in his sort of desire to reframe the Labour Party as a party of middle-class centrism, which is fine if that's your cup of tea. It's not mine. But things like LTNs and local councils and the way in which, you're absolutely right, they do get played by a piano like middle classes. I think the problem is a lack of democracy, which is that time after time, I live in Hackney, they always are announcing that they're having consultations, never comes through my door, or I tell you they'd hear about it. And there is, I don't want to quite allege that there's corruption, but there's certainly a lot of fiddling in relation to getting what the council wants, not necessarily listening to residents.
Yeah, we're going to have to call time there. There's going to be lots more to come in the next hour. Ella and John, fantastic kick-off to the papers this morning. Look forward to the next round.